Italy is all very well for 9 months in the year, but Leghorn is no place for the Englishman in mid-July. My thoughts were wandering toward the English lakes and a bit of grouse shooting with my uncle up in Scotland, when the faithful Francesco re-entered, saying: "I've sent the captain and his madman away till this afternoon, signore. But there is an English signore waiting to see you." "Who is he?" "I don't know. He will give no name, but wants to see the Signor Console." "All right, show him in," I said lazily, and a few moments later a tall, smartly dressed, middle-aged Englishman in a navy serge yachting suit entered, and bowing, inquired whether I was the British Consul. When he had seated himself I explained my position, whereupon he said: "I couldn't make much out of your clerk. He speaks so brokenly, and I don't know a word of Italian. But perhaps I ought to first introduce myself. My name is Philip Hornby," and he handed me a card bearing the name with the address Woodcroft Park, Somerset, Brook's. Then he added: "I am cruising on board my yacht, the Lola, and last night we unfortunately went aground on the Meloria. I have a new captain whom I engaged a few months ago, and he seems an arrant fool. Very fortunately for us, a fishing boat saw our plight and gave the alarm at port. The Admiral sent out 2 torpedo boats and a tug, and after about 3 hours they managed to get us off." "And you are now in harbor?" "Yes. But the reason I've called is to ask you to do me a favor and write me a letter of thanks in Italian to the Admiral, and one to the captain of the port. Polite letters that I can copy and send to them. You know the kind of thing." "Certainly," I replied, the more interested in him on account of the curious suspicion that the port authorities seemed to entertain. He was evidently a gentleman, and after I had been with him 10 minutes I scouted the idea that he had endeavored to cast away the Lola. I took down a couple of sheets of paper and scribbled the drafts of 2 letters couched in the most elegant phraseology, as is customary when addressing Italian officialdom. "Fortunately I left my wife in England, or she would have been terribly frightened," he remarked presently. "There was a nasty wind blowing all night, and the fool of a captain seemed to add to our peril by every order he gave." "You are alone, then?" "I have a friend with me," was the answer. "And how many of the crew are there?" 16 all told." "English, I suppose?" "Not all. I find French and Italians are more sober than English, and better behaved in port." I examined him critically as he sat facing me, and the mere fact of his desire to send thanks to the authorities convinced me that he was a well-bred gentleman. He was about 45, with a merry, round, good-natured face, red with the southern sun, blue eyes, and a short, fair beard. His countenance was essentially that of a man devoted to open-air sport, for it was slightly furrowed and weather-beaten, as a true yachtsman's should be. His speech was refined and cultivated, and as we chatted he gave me the impression that as an enthusiastic lover of the sea he had cruised the Mediterranean many times from Gibraltar up to Smyrna. He had, however, never before put into Leghorn. After we had arranged that his captain should come to me in the afternoon and make a formal report of the accident, we went out together across the white sunny piazza to Nasi's, the well-known pastry-cook's, where it is the habit of the Livornese to take their ante-luncheon vermouth. The more I saw of Hornby, the more I liked him. He was chatty and witty, and treated his accident as a huge joke. "We shall be here quite a week, I suppose," he said as we were taking our vermouth. "We're on our way down to the Greek islands, as my friend Chater wants to see them. The engineer says there's something strained that we must get mended. But by the way," he added, "why don't you dine with us on board to-night? Do. We can give you a few English things that may be a change to you." This invitation I gladly accepted for 2 reasons. One was because the suspicions of the captain of the port had aroused my curiosity, and the other was because I had, honestly speaking, taken a great fancy to Hornby. The captain of the Lola, a short, thick-set Scotsman from Dundee, with a barely healed cicatrix across his left cheek, called at the Consulate at 2 o'clock and made his report, which appeared to me to be a very lame one. He struck me as being unworthy